So hi, everyone. Welcome to today's discovery session. My name is Lucia, and I do the communications for DeepSense. Now, the discovery sessions are meant to support students and businesses and other organizations with an understanding of how to use data and artificial intelligence, and in this case, cybersecurity. For those who don't know what DeepSense is, I'll give you a little introduction. So DeepSense is a project based out of Dalhousie University in Halifax, Nova Scotia. But we work with universities and colleges across Atlantic Canada. We work with companies in the ocean sector who are interested in harnessing the potential of data and creating a smarter ocean economy. We connect these companies with the next generation of AI, machine learning, and data experts like Alyssa here. And we work with companies to create projects that best suit their needs and their level of data maturity. And then we find a researcher and a student to help execute the project as either a project as an internship, a co-op, a master's research project. There's a lot of different avenues we can take. We've had past projects in data analytics, data collection, data visualizations, data cleaning and processing, and of course, AI and machine learning. And the projects could be anything from creating a deep learning model to track fish in the Bay of Fundy, or creating a prediction model for safe navigation into the Halifax Harbor, or even a model that can identify whale shapes from aerial images. So if you ever want to grow your skills and join the DeepSense team and have us connect you with a company working in the ocean economy, definitely submit your name to our student pool. So projects, internship, co-ops pop up throughout the year, and we ask for students to submit to the pool because that's the first place we're going to go to find someone to fill a position. So I'll share a link in the chat and make sure you can send in your resume, and so you can stand out. And that is exactly how most of our DeepSense students have got connected with their projects. Now, today's session is all about cybersecurity, specifically in the ocean sector. There are over 50,000 boats on the ocean at a time that we know of. And whether those are cargo ships, cruise ships, fishing vessels, pleasure vessels, or even naval ships, they're all vulnerable to cyber attacks in some way. Cybersecurity in maritime has a huge potential to impact the safety of the crew, the vessel, the cargo, and even the ports. And Alyssa here is going to give us an overview about the past, present, of the future of maritime cybersecurity and what opportunities there are in this field for recent grads. Now, Alyssa, full name is Alyssa Jones, is an international student from Kingston, Jamaica, currently taking the IT generalist course at NSCC in Port Hawkesbury. Her passion for cybersecurity brought her to the DeepSense team this summer, where she worked as a cybersecurity intern for Cove's Stella Maris, which is a multi-sensor seabed platform that lives just off the coast, just lives in the water, but just by Cove over in Dartmouth. She's worked on securing the platform to ensure it is ready for ocean tech companies to use and to conduct product development, verification, and commercialization to get their products to market faster. Throughout the webinar, you're welcome to drop any questions you have either in the chat, or you can use the Q&A feature, whichever you prefer. But that's it for me. So Alyssa, I'm going to pass it off to you. You can share your screen and get started.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. That was like a great introduction I've ever had of myself. So I'm going to share that screen.
Perfect. Looks good. We see it. Good to go.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everyone. Let's do a recap of my introduction. As Lucia said already, my name is Alyssa Jones. I'm an international student coming in from Jamaica. I study at NSCC Port Hawkesbury Strait Area Campus, and I study IT generalist. And from there, I like to specialize more in cybersecurity. And over the summer, while I did my internship with DeepSense, I fell in love with marine cybersecurity and securing ports, their ships, the vessels, the tankers, everything marine I will like to secure in the technology field. Cool. So what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is the practice of protecting critical systems and system information from digital attack. And the word digital attack is very important when it comes to cybersecurity, because a lot of times when someone asks me, what do you do? I tend to try and say, oh, I like to do security. And security could mean anything. Could be the standing at a post and securing, a yard or something. So the word cybersecurity is important. Organizations transmit sensitive data across networks and to other devices in the course of doing business. So cybersecurity design describes the principle dedicated to protecting the information and the system used to protect it. So in cybersecurity, and when you're talking about marine cybersecurity, IMO comes up a lot. And now IMO is the International Maritime Organization. And the International Maritime Organization is the United Nations regulatory body responsible for the safety of life at sea and environmental protection. They have adopted a great number of conventions of regulations since their inception in 1959. Now, due to the new security challenges imposed by some devastating terrorist attacks around the world, the organization had to respond swiftly and appropriately. To deal with these maritime security threats effectively, the IMO's mandate is the duty to make travel and transport by sea as safe and secure as possible, and then to manage and mitigate any threats with the potential to compromise maritime security. The organization develops suitable regulations and guidelines through the Maritime Safety Committee. Now, I know a lot of people might be thinking about, how can a ship be affected by cybersecurity in like a great deal? So let's look at an overview of the data network of a ship. So on a ship, the vessel itself, you have the radar, the charts, gyroscopes, GPS, AIS, and then AIS is the automated identification system. You have the GPS, the global system. You have automation of the engines, the sensors, the actuators, the safety management, the board watch. All of those can be affected by cybersecurity attacks. Okay, so understanding marine cybersecurity. Increased automation and artificial intelligence appear to be opening up new avenues for cyber attacks against the shipping industry, which has experienced serious cybersecurity instances in recent years. So let's dig a little deeper into cyber risk management. Cyber risk management means the process of identifying, analyzing, assessing, and communicating a cyber-related risk and accepting, avoiding, transferring, or mitigating it to an acceptable level, considering cost and benefits of the actions taken to the stakeholders. So just trying to figure out how best we can protect the system so that it does not affect the stakeholders. The overall goal is to support safe and secure shipping, which is operationally resilient to cyber risk. So you might be still asking or saying cyber attacks rarely happen outside of the banks of government organizations or tech companies, but that's not true. So cybersecurity in the marine sector is the fifth most likely to suffer a cyber attack. Like many industries, the maritime sector depends increasingly on digitalization, integration of operations, and automation in global real-time management of worldwide shipping. The majority of the vessels are extremely high-tech, and as time passes, more and more depend on satellite. So with all of that being said, there's been a 400% increase in maritime-related cyber attack since February 2020 alone. And with that being said, the maritime industry is so important because it consumes, or it takes up, or it kind of covers 90% of our world trade. Now, when I spoke about the IMO, I want to show you guys how large a cyber attack or a terrorist attack had to happen for a system or regulations be put in place regards to shipping or the maritime security. So this attack of an Italian cruise ship, the Archipelago, happened in October the 7th of 1985. And it was such a significant actual terrorist attack that the IMO had to adopt a regulation on the measures to prevent unlawful acts which threaten the safety of ships and the security of their passengers and crews. So as of 2021, cybersecurity has been at the forefront of a really bad year. So for the maritime industry and the logistical industry, which they both tie hand in hand. Attacks targeting ships increased in frequency by 33%, and that came on the heels of a 900% increase in attacks on ships and the port system since 2020. So overall, for cybersecurity, there have been many attacks on ports and the vessels themselves. This is just to name a few that have happened since 2021 or since 2020. So the port of Marseille, located in France, HMM, which was a South Korean cargo shipping vessel that was a targeted attack. Japan K Line was another targeted attack that happened in March 2021. And then the second one that happened July 2021. Transnet happened in July 2021. Port of Houston happened in August 2021. CMA happened in September of 2021. And then the Pacific Offshore happened in November 2021. And these are just to name a few. There have been multiple attacks that happened time and time again, some that have been targeted, some that were not targeted. And with what's going on in the world now, we're going to see a significant increase because, as we've said before, the maritime industry covers a lot of the economy's produce. The shipping industry can paralyze a country if a ship doesn't get into port. And, attackers are aware of this, and they said, yep, that's where we're going to go with our attacks. So when you think about, working in the maritime industry, you don't have to be on a vessel. You don't have to be on a boat, in the engine room, on bridge watch, in the navigation system area. You can also be in cybersecurity, and cybersecurity, as I said before, isn't just for financial industry or the tech industry. It is very important in the maritime industry. So some of the vessel navigation, propulsion systems, emergency systems, cargo handling, and container tracking systems on board ships and in ports are all at risk of cyber attacks. The massive logistical challenges associated with the shipyard inventories requires technology and automation to ensure the smooth running of the operations. Digitalization and the increasing connection between information systems and operational systems is bringing new vulnerabilities. Hackers have demonstrated that the ability to penetrate the system used by the maritime industry as cyber attacks increase in complexity and numbers. So does your need for 24/7 operational technology, so OT. Security platform designed specifically for operational technology. With that, here comes a lot of jobs and opportunities for students to kind of get a feel as to what cybersecurity, if you want to go into the digital technology field in maritime, you can be a maritime industry security specialist, you can be a lead security specialist, security operations analyst, security architect, network security specialist, cybersecurity advisor, security risk assessment specialist. That's just to name a few. But yes, that is all I have for you guys on cybersecurity and maritime.
Awesome. Thanks, Alyssa.
No problem.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or in the Q&A. But we can get things started with why is cybersecurity important to consider during the automation of the marine industry?
Yep. So cybersecurity is important to consider because the world is going into a very technology-based era. And automation is tying in the artificial intelligence and reducing the risk of human error. With that being said, because so much more technology is put into these devices, it's easier for people to hack and manipulate it.
Right, and that's obviously, we don't want that to happen.
Absolutely.
I was just thinking as you were talking, we're talking about a lot about ships and ports, but I'm thinking about at the bottom of the ocean, we have internet cables that connect a lot of, especially across the ocean, across the Atlantic. Do you think, is there any like, are they vulnerable? Like like they're vulnerable to like animals and ship anchors, but is there anything that like could cyber hackers cut off a whole island nation that relies on those cables?
They
Is that
definitely could. They definitely could. It probably wouldn't be a network attack, but it could be that, someone goes scuba diving and click the cord and it shuts off a lot of their processes. And if they're not quick enough to figure out what created this disconnect, then they could be out of business for at least a week or two.
Yes, and well, something similar kind of happened, but it was a storm related. So that's what, I forget what country it was, but it took a long time for the whole country was cut off from the world because the internet cable got severed somehow. I think it was through a boat. But yeah, they're also vulnerable to cyber attacks. You mentioned that the maritime industry is the fifth most likely to suffer a cyber attack. Do you know what the other four are before it?
So you'd have technology industry, of course, finance, you've seen a big rise in finance. And I'm not sure what the other two would be, but I do know that maritime is big on it.
And when, like, the examples that you gave of the different attacks that have happened since 2020, can you like go into detail into one of them? Like what what exactly happened? Do you know the details of any of them?
Yeah, so the South Korean flagship, which is can go back to it. Let's go back to it here. The South Korean flagship was a targeted attack. And so it would have been this one. And it was during the peak of COVID when a lot of people were ordering produce online. And that ship was attacked by a ransomware called Ragnar Locker. And it basically locked their communication system from their headquarters. And they were saying that it was a Russian attack or cyber attack that basically cut off that ship from going to 3 different countries, US included. And it basically was targeted for the US based. However, to target one specific country was not really doable. So they attacked the entire headquarters and their ships were stranded at sea for at least 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
A lot of produce got wasted at that point. You also have Transnet that happened in July 2021 that the hack disrupted normal processes and damaged equipment and information, accumulating in declaration of a forced attack at the ports of the container terminal. And with that one, they weren't able to catch it in time and had to pay $300 million for the release of their data.
Wow. That's a lot of money to pay.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, so these are big impacts. Do you know of any, like, I guess this probably be not public knowledge, but like naval like attacks? Is that like these are all like port or like shipping examples, but like does this happen in like the navies and like in defense? Is this a way that
They might, and I think there's some of them that do, but they don't report it to the general public just because you don't want that information to get out that your Navy base was easily attacked.
Yeah.
But I think there was one recently based off of the Russia and Ukraine war that Russia did hack Ukraine's military base.
Right. Are there any stories of like cruise ships getting hacked or anything?
Yeah. So the one for Archilaro, this there was one after this, after they sold it, that was hacked. Caribbean Cruise was hacked as well.
Oh, okay. Since 1985. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
It's a
interesting.
little bit more difficult, not really difficult, but they're not going to really attack a cruise ship that much as they would attack normal shipping containers. They do attack cruise ships, but what they'd end up doing is they'd mess with their navigation system, or they'd collect passenger information.
Right. Ah, yes. I didn't even think of the passenger information. Yeah, they have all the info there.
Yep. So Caribbean Cruise Line was hacked in March of 2020.
Oh, that's very recent. Oh, that's also a bad time to hack because, well, cruise just came to a halt afterwards. So there weren't as many cruise ships happening.
Yes.
And are these hackers, are they called cyber pirates? Is that a term?
Some of them are.
Okay.
Well, because we'll call the real terrorist attacks pirates. Cyber pirates are definitely a term.
Okay. And so how did you get interested in the cyber field? Because you come from like a culinary background. How did you transition into cyber? Like a lot of people, it's a big jump from what you were doing before.
Oh yeah, definitely. So once COVID hit in 2020, I had to really try and figure out what I was going to do, because the world was basically ending at that point, and a lot of industries were shutting down. So when it comes to stability, I need to find an industry that was stable enough to adapt to such a big world event. And the IT industry ended up being one of them. And I remember watching a lot of YouTube videos of this one guy that gets or scams hackers or scammers. And I was like, oh, I've always wanted to try and, hack a hacker. How cool would that have been? And then I started looking into cybersecurity, and I found out that it was such a big, not a big thing, but it was such a big industry that really needed a lot of people in it. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll go into that one.
And have you found it, like you're in your second year of study? Have you found that there are a lot of opportunities?
Oh yeah, there's tons of opportunities in cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is such a broad name that I don't think a lot of people realize how broad it is. So, you can do network cybersecurity, ethical hacker cybersecurity. You have pen testers, quality assurance testers for cybersecurity, application security. So there's just so much you can do in cybersecurity that I don't think you'd ever get bored.
That's good. So there's always stuff that happens. Sorry, I just turned off your screen sharing.
That's fine.
Yeah. So there's a lot of opportunities. And you said that you fell in love with the maritime field. What was it? Like, why is it so much better?
I don't want to too DeepSense's horn, but I think DeepSense had a big role to play in my love for cybersecurity. Apart from me being on campus, which is a nautical school, because we do marine engineering, marine technology, and navigation here. I think DeepSense opened my eyes to a lot in the ocean sector that was untouched and not spoken about as much as it should have been.
Yeah, definitely. As I was doing research for this presentation, it was interesting. There wasn't that many articles, and some I would just be like getting into what the crew has to do to learn about their info packages. I was like, oh, this is not what I was looking for. There's not much
There's
about
not
it out
much.
there. Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
like really search hard to
Yeah, and
find.
I think we're getting into that time where we're actually looking for articles and documentations on how automation and digital technology is affecting the maritime transportation, logistics, and supply chain world.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And like supply chain can easily, like we saw with that boat that got stuck 2 years ago in the Suez Canal,
Yeah,
caused a backlog of months of stuff. So,
and even with that, that's one thing that the world never knew, that was a part of it was a cyber attack.
oh, was it?
Apart from it getting stuck, it was also cyber attack.
Oh, well, there we go. Yeah, they kept that one under wraps.
So the governments now have more regulations on cyber attacks. Companies have to, speak about if they've ever been breached. They have to report it, which makes it very difficult and scary, because you don't want your company to be that vulnerable to its, your customers. You want your customers to think that you're resilient to attacks.
Yeah, and then we saw, what was it? Sobeys? Was that recently? It just happened last week?
Yep, somebody clicked a link and it downloaded a malware to their entire system.
Oh, yes, don't click suspicious links.
Never. So it shows you that there's a constant need for that cybersecurity awareness and that cybersecurity education within different sectors, because of what can happen. A lot of attacks. There was one on Sonic Wall or SolarWinds the other recently, and that attack wasn't necessarily for that company. It was to get into the government, because the government was a client of that company.
Oh, yeah.
So a lot of attacks don't really necessarily are your business targets. It's who's your client.
Right. Right. That's really fascinating that your company, necessarily isn't the target, but it's your clients, or like on the cruise ship, the people on the cruise ship, their information.
Yes.
That's really fascinating. As like, what do you have any tips for students who might be interested in getting into cybersecurity, like what they should be doing or looking into?
So if you're not able to necessarily get into a program for cybersecurity, there are different websites, the ISC that you can go on. You have CISSP, which is Cisco certifications. There's, a number of books. There's one by Stephen Jones that he did on marine security. And then part of it, he talks about the rising cyber attacks or the cyber threat of the marine security. But working in the sector itself is very helpful as to like getting a niche as to what specific you want to get into for cybersecurity. You have Hack the Box, which is another website that you can use to do different modules in it. And that can give you a feel as to what area in cybersecurity you would like to go into.
That's good. Did you look at that when you were exploring?
Yeah. So I remember speaking to someone that was at Amazon once, and they were saying that it was good to go ahead and go on do these projects so that you'd be able to show it in your interviews.
All right, we have 2 questions. Sarah's asking, are there international standards or protocols for dealing with attacks, trials, investigations, etc., or does each country deal with it differently?
There is a general organization that deals with cyber attacks and how each country will mitigate and deal with it. Specific countries have their own specific guidelines and laws, just based off of recent stuff that have happened in those specific countries.
Do you find certain countries are more like stricter laws than others? Do you know enough about that?
Yeah, definitely. You have like South Korea would be a lot stricter. China would be stricter because China has a social citizens system where they kind of like have a social system for how their citizens behave. The US have one that is a lot stricter than Canada. Europe is a little stricter as well. And you also have some that are really lax, like Jamaica is a little too lax. But yes,
they're just island time, just chill.
Yep. That's the issue.
Yeah.
A lot of countries look at themselves and say, oh, there's no reason for them to attack me, so why do we need to have these guidelines in place?
That's true. And a lot of those countries are like Jamaica are like tourist destinations too, and so they're handling a lot of people coming in, and they have a lot of information like of those people.
Yes.
Sophie was asking, do they get all their data back? Like if they pay the ransom.
They do, but there's still a copy out there.
Yeah.
You're never sure that even if you pay the ransom, your data gets returned with no, effect.
Yeah. Yeah. So you pay it, but it's still out there.
Yeah. Yes. And that's why it's always frowned upon on paying, because regardless of you paying, they can always release the data.
Yeah. I think those are all the questions that we have. Do you have any final words you want to share about data security or cybersecurity in general?
Just be careful what you put online.
Yeah.
Don't use the same password for everything. Password managers are really, really good. There's one Dashlane that will actually scan the dark web for your breaches that come under your email address. So that's really good. And just be aware.
Yeah, be aware. Don't click on shady links.
If you're not sure or you're suspicious about a link, don't click it. Call the person.
Yeah, and QR codes, be wary of those.
Oh, yes.
We've discussed that.
Don't scan a QR code on the roadside.
You don't know where it will take you.
Yep.
Or who you'll let in.
Or what it will download.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks so much, Alyssa, for taking the time to chat with us.
For having me.
I dropped some links for our student pool, and we have a mentorship program called STEM Connector, which is a great way to help grow your networks. You can meet with people working in STEM and meet with other students on there. So if you haven't, definitely check that out and you can join. And then you can also follow DeepSense on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. And we do these discovery sessions. We probably won't do it next month because December is kind of a busy time, but definitely have some in the winter and ready for the new year. And also share our discovery session playlist, which is a great resource. We always upload all of our discovery sessions. Like we'll upload this one onto YouTube, and you can check out past ones. Our last one was about building a computer vision model. So we have a wide range of topics, and we have some about building your resume and writing good emails and so on. So now we have a cybersecurity one to add to the list. So thank you again. Thanks for taking the time.
Problem.
Thanks for
having me.
Thanks for everyone who joined us today. Have a great weekend, and we'll see everyone again soon. Bye.
Bye.